that's most like our own. Some scientists are convinced it has water, and for years NASA has been probing and exploring it. So far, no signs of aliens. But in 1976, they were looking for signs of tiny bacteria, when instead they found this. This photo of the plain of Cydonia contains what most astronomers are convinced are some large rocks. But to some people, they look suspiciously like this. Here's one guy who thinks that's exactly what they are. Tom Van Flandern is a renegade astronomer who has his own theory about Mars and junk. You see, according to Flandern, Mars is really the moon of a planet where extraterrestrial humans first evolved, but had to leave in a bit of a hurry when it exploded. Left behind was all sorts of junk, including pyramids.
The most interesting speculation about the origin of the artifacts on Mars is that the original human race was on the parent world that has since exploded. They built things on their moon, Mars, but before the end of their civilization, which they saw coming, they transferred their species to the most nearly habitable planet, which would have been Earth. We'd sure like to get higher resolution images of this and other pyramid-shaped objects on Mars and see if they are truly pyramids.
But are these really pictures of Martian pyramids, you ask? Tobias Owen was a NASA scientist on the mission that took the photographs. He's what you might call unconvinced.
My job there was to examine pictures as they were coming in of the surface of Mars in regions that we thought would be safe for the spacecraft to land. There was a small group of people who felt that this was an example of an alien construction, that there was life on Mars, or there had been life on Mars.
NASA promptly issued a denial, which for believers was obviously proof of a monumental cover-up.
You know, the interesting thing about NASA's track record, NASA, National Aeronautics Space Association, could also stand for never a straight answer. In its inception in 1959 or so, NASA consulted a big think tank called the Brookings Institute, which advised NASA, if you ever find extraterrestrials, these things need to be handled cautiously. For one, society in general and religious institutions aren't quite ready to accept an extraterrestrial presence.
Pyramids on Mars were spooky enough, but then things got really out of hand when NASA released another batch of photographs from the plain of Cydonia. And near the pyramid shapes was something else. A rocky outcrop that some people felt had an eerie resemblance to something familiar, something that ancient astronaut believers have long connected with aliens. Yep, that other famous tourist site in Egypt.
Very interestingly enough, NASA first took an image of the face on Mars and they labeled it head. And this photograph was quickly dismissed by NASA as a trick of light and shadow. It's not really a face on Mars, it's just a lighting angle difference. Wrong answer. Here we have a face in pyramids on Mars, a sphinx in pyramids in Egypt. There has to be a connection, a Mars-Earth connection.
To the scientists, though, it was just a natural feature.
This is the kind of thing that we see on the Earth in various places. There's a famous one in New Hampshire in the United States called the Old Man in the Mountain. And there's a tendency among us humans to try to see images of ourselves in nature. And here was a perfect example, but happened to be on Mars.
The common sense explanation is simple. Human beings are just hardwired to recognize faces, even when faces aren't there. Over to a psychologist to explain.
Faces are very important to humans from infancy. They're so important that we perceive faces even in a stimulus that is not a face. For example, this plate of eggs in front of me looks very much like a face. We can see eyebrows, two eyes, a nose, and a mouth very readily. Well, when I look at the first image that was taken of the structures on Mars, I see it very, very clearly as a face. Here's an eye, here's the bottom part of a nose, here's the outline of a face.
our first guest tonight. He's really not a guest. He's a friend of mine, and he's a friend of yours, too. I've known Jose Escamilla for a long time, over 20 years. He is a superb filmmaker, director, producer, writer. He does it all. He is a true professional who actually could be, in my view, creating films at any level in Hollywood. He does his own thing. He is fascinated with what we call the unusual, the paranormal, things that aren't commonly understood by people, and in the case certainly of the two subjects we're going to talk about this hour, virtually unknown by probably 99.99, and you can carry it out as far as you want, percent of folks on this planet. We're going to talk to Jose about two films. One, about his most remarkable subject of rods, otherwise known as Roswell rods. Rods. And just sit tight. You're going to be amazed. There are trailers to a new rods film you can see, and a trailer also for his film out now called Celestial. And I'd like to probably start with Celestial, because Celestial rips the cover off another big NASA lie. The NASA lie being, in this case, that the moon is drab and black and white. It's not, folks. And you'll see in the trailer exactly what I'm talking about. Hello, friend. Welcome back.
I am here.
We're going to start with, I guess, do you want to start with Celestial? Is that all right?
Yes, let's do that. That's my most recent film.
Okay, and that's out now. Now, Jose's films can be seen online for, what is it, $1.98? Something like that?
$1.99.
$1.99. Yeah, it works.
$1.99, you can see them.
It's, whatever. It's worth 10 in my book. The idea of NASA lying to us is an unfortunate reality. We know it. You know it. We talked about this many years ago, and I've certainly seen enough examples of their lies and obfuscation to make me sick for a long time to come. They just lie. And one of the biggest lies of all is the moon is this lifeless, dead, black and white planet. It's not, I guess you could call it a planet. It's bigger than Pluto, isn't it?
Well, at one time, NASA scientists had gotten together with some NASA scientists as to whether or not to call the moon a planet. So there was a discussion about 4 or 5 years ago where they were trying to figure out whether or not to call the moon a planet. So the question has been there. Of course, they said, no, let's not go there. So it's still a celestial body, and that's fine.
A celestial body. That kind of gets them greasily off the hook, in my view.
Yeah.
Pluto and the size of the moon. I'm going to look this up. I got my own curiosity riled up now. Maybe somebody can email me in the difference in size between the two.
It's about a third the size of the Earth. That's what the common figure is,
The moon?
And the fallacy. Yeah, the moon is about a third.
Well, it's a hell of a lot bigger than Pluto, then. It's got to be.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, it's a planet as far as I'm concerned, but what do I know?
Yeah, well, calling it a celestial body basically says it's a planet because it's a celestial body. It's a celestial planetoid or orb, as you might go with. And that's the reason I called the film Celestial, because it being a celestial body means that it's a body of some kind out there, and it's a living moon. It's alive with a thin atmosphere. It has greenery. It has gold mountains, solid gold mountains. I forgot to send you that photo, but there are photos in color from the color photography taken by the Clementine mission back in 1994. You can see what appear to be solid gold mountains. And they're not small mountains. They're huge. They're bigger than the Himalayas, man. They're huge mountains made of solid gold. They appear to be gold. I've shown these to people that do assaying and, panning for gold.
Are you talking about actual GOLD or just a color?
Well, the color seems to be of a gold metallic nature. When you look at the photography, doggone it, let me see if I can find. No, I'm on a total different hard drive.
Oh, don't worry about it. Maybe at the bottom of the hour you can shoot it over to James or me, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'll have to find it here. But they're huge, massive mountains made of gold, I feel. And there's a golden arch, a golden arch that somebody built it. I don't know who in the world would do something out of gold.
Well, we know it's not McDonald's.
Yeah. It ain't McDonald's. It's not the St. Louis arch, you know. There's an arch that's right there, and you can tell it's three-dimensional. It's standing up, and it looks like solid gold, you know.
Okay, the celestial trailer can be viewed simply by clicking at the Celestial Movie website. You'll see it. We're taking the celestial part first tonight because this is really important, and it's not so much the fact that the moon is what it is, it's the fact that NASA is lying again. And when we look at what NASA has done to us regarding our birthright to know what's up on the moon, they've done 100 times more probably with respect to Mars. I mean, God only knows what's on Mars. We see things. Joseph Skipper's work is extraordinary. The shapes and things of obviously an intelligent-looking design on Mars are almost uncountable. And living beings there of some kind or another, reptiles. I've seen it all. Anyway.
You can bet there's life up there on the moon and on Mars and probably other planets. And they're not telling us because they don't want us to be keen on that knowledge. You know, if we know everything, then they have nothing to keep us in slavehood. You know, because once we realize that there are other living humanoids or living entities out there in space that are far more intelligent than us, we're not going to depend on governments and presidents. Why should we? You know?
Of course.
We have brothers out there that are...
It'll give a lot of people... It'll give a lot of people freedom. They'll be released from this scam of lying and information hiding and all that. It's all a scam, all of it.
Yeah, freedom of knowledge is very important. Freedom of knowledge.
Well, knowledge is the most important commodity on the planet, the most powerful. People have often suggested that the powers that be will let it out when they want to and then reel it back in when they want to control more. So they literally control the knowledge available to the general populace on the so-called sentient species on this planet. Brett, I'm going to go right through this because I got a lot to do with Jose this hour. The celestial trailer, if you all can look at that right now, I'm going to click on it, and just for those who are not online necessarily or able to see it, I'm going to play just a little bit of it to give you a teaser so you'll go and watch it, and then hopefully you'll $1.99 watch the film because it's stunning. Here's the trailer. It's not narrated, but I'll read the first text parts that pop up on it for you to give you just a quick overview of what it is. Celestial. Trailer number 1. It's only 1 minute and 8 seconds long. Not long. When they went to the moon, they forgot to tell us about its true natural color. This is a film that challenges anyone to prove to us the moon is gray. It's not. The moon filmed in full color and using a backyard telescope and a $68 webcam. And then you get to look at the pictures. Colors galore. And what's really fun, Jose, is when you show the Apollo astronauts up there on the moon, and all around them is this gray and black terrain. And yet when you look in the faceplate of the spacesuit, I don't know which astronaut that is, back at the camera, you see color. You see colorful soil. You see color. Yeah, Buzz Aldrin. You see colors all over the place. And now, who took this film of the moon with color?
This was taken by NASA during the Clementine mission back in 1994.
Okay.
At least that's when they supposedly released the full color photography that exists. In my film Celestial, you'll find that I was trying to research and find this crater called Geo, GUYOT,
Mm-hmm.
which is above the crater that's featured in celestial, the Lobachevsky crater, where there seems to be an object that was built within an 8-month period that's 10 miles wide and 6 miles high. Somebody built it between Apollo 16 and Apollo 17.
You have a starting time frame, an image, which it's not there, and then 8 months later it's there.
Yeah. So somebody built this 10-mile wide, 6-mile high structure on this crater called Lobachevsky. And Apollo 16, they photographed it. I mean, all of the Apollo missions had an interest on Lobachevsky crater for whatever reason. They've been filming that crater since Apollo 8. Okay, so they've been filming it and photographing it. And then Apollo 16, which was in April of 72, there was an excavation going on, and there's a photo that shows a thing I call the excavator. That seems to be a machine of some type, or maybe a living creature or something that's digging the hole.
Okay.
Or 8 months later, this huge structure appears. And you can see those in the celestial
photos section. All right,
the first photo, the top photo, Apollo
Let's click
16.
on that right now. Celestial film reveals moon structures and colors. Photos. Look for that.
Yes.
And click on that, which I'm doing right now. If I can get it.
You can see what appears to be a hole being dug, and there's it looks like a tower or a cross, white one. And then in the next photo, you don't see the tower, but you see what looks like a machine or a creature. I call it the excavator that's excavating. And that's from Apollo 16 photography. And then on the Apollo 17 photography in December 72, this structure now appears. And it appears to have cables strewing out of the top, and it's 6 miles high, 10 miles wide.
Okay, let me go back. Let's go back to the first picture. People have got photos loaded up now. This is celestial. Look for the celestial photos and click on the text, and you'll load that page up. Apollo 16, April 1972. And if you look, you'll see there's an item clearly in the foreground, right dead center, right above the A in April. And you can scroll down to the next image, and there's a close-up of that. Wow.
It looks like Mothra. Remember that old sci-fi movie?
Oh, sure.
Or Rodon or Rodin, but Mothra. This looks like a worm of some kind or something, or a caterpillar or something.
Well,
weird.
It also looks like, the shape of it looks like almost a soda bottle laying on its side with the bottom blown out of it.
Yeah, but you can see a shadow underneath it where it's hovering.
I see that.
Covered.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing. We don't know what it is. Can't explain it. NASA's definitely not making any remarks about it, but it appears in one of the Apollo 16 photography taken at the same time in April of 1972.
I'm looking at it with a magnifying glass, and the bottom end of it, the left end, the top, has two what look like almost appendages. Although that could be something. Again, I also see it though as dark in there. It looks like something could have blown. I don't know what it is, but it's right next to.
Don't know what it is either.
A crater or something that has been dug out. And
that's that portion. If you go back to the Apollo 16 photo, you can see this thing. It's almost a color gray, but you can see what appears to be a white cross and the hole that's being dug.
Uh-huh.
But that's the exact same position that on the Apollo 17 photo, underneath the excavator.
Yes.
This structure appears in that same exact location.
That's the same spot. Well, what the hell is that? Now that item you're telling me is, whatever it is enormous.
10 miles wide, 6 miles high.